All the rolling go, where am I to go? Meet Johnny, where am I to go? For I'm a young and a sailor lad, and where am I to go?
Hello, and welcome to Where Am I to Go podcast. Today we are on the Washington coast, just north of Westport at a town called Markham. We are at the International Mermaid Museum. I had no idea there was a mermaid museum, but as we were driving through, we saw it. I stopped and asked Bailey if we could do a podcast, and she said sure. She got all the arrangements made, so we are here at the International Mermaid Museum and with Bailey. Welcome, Bailey, to Where Am I to Go podcast.
Thank you for having me. Welcome to the International Mermaid Museum.
Thank you for letting us come in.
Of course. So you haven't been here before, so I'm just going to give you the basic rundown. So the International Mermaid, we have a fortune-telling mermaid. She's motion censored. I'm going to stand in front of her, and then she won't talk anymore. Once you trip her the first time, she doesn't talk. So when you first come into the museum, you can get your fortune told from Aquamarine. You can try tails on and pose with our mermaid on our throne. And then
you can try on tails.
You can try on tails. We have a bunch of tails in that trunk right behind you there.
Holy smokes. So what happens if you're a man? Can you be a man-maid?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
And like I always tell the kids, there's no wrong way to be a mermaid, merperson, whatever you want to call yourself.
Okay.
So, yeah. So the museum was founded by Blaine and Kim Roberts, who met actually at the Westport shipyard when Blaine was building a new charter boat for his business. Kim was one of the first female charter boat captains in Westport.
Oh, wow.
And Blaine owned and operated a diving business in Maui for 21 years. So when they moved to the mainland, they did a variety of different things, but they wanted to have something that would allow people to see like the wonder of the ocean without actually being able to go under the water.
Okay.
So the museum is set up to be like you're swimming underwater through a shipwreck, and it covers ocean ecology immersed through mermaid mythology, because a lot of people are interested in mermaids, and if you look at the ocean ecology, the mermaids that exist in specific cultures are closely related to the different fish.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Oh, definitely.
Are you with me? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So, because the other thing was, are people going to stop at the Ocean Ecology Center? Maybe. But are people going to stop at the International Mermaid Museum and maybe learn a bit about ocean ecology?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So that was kind of the basic genesis.
What an interesting way to present it, too. I'm excited now.
It's really fun. Every culture in the world that has a permanent body of water has a mermaid myth of some kind.
Really? Mm-hmm. So They must have really existed at one point in time.
I mean, that's what we think, but that's our official line here at the Mermaid Museum. And like I tell the kids on education tours, we do tours with third graders. We've only explored 5% of the ocean, so...
Right.
Who's to say?
Well, all the sailors saw them.
Exactly.
Now, whether they were hallucinating or not, but...
That is the question. So, as we move through... Sorry about her.
Could you stand in front of her? This is fun, watching Haley and Linda dance, trying to get the mermaid fortune teller to be quiet.
All right, so the first stories that we start off with in this room here kind of give people a taste. This room is free to check out. So this kind of gives people just an idea of what the Mermaid Museum setup is. You can see at the top of each display board, we have a mermaid myth from somewhere and an ocean ecology thing. So Andaro are merpeople from the Pacific Ocean Solomon Islands, and they are similar to swordfish. So they are near our marlin and our swordfish tail.
Okay.
So that way you learn about a new merperson, and you also learn about swordfish and marlin.
And you have a swordfish up here that's probably what? 15 feet, 18 feet long? It's
13
huge.
13 feet, 4 inches, 797 pounds.
It's a big one. Mm-hmm. And this was caught in Hawaii?
This was caught in Hawaii.
Wow.
On Kona, and the kid was 14 when he caught it.
Okay.
I'm assuming there was help.
I was going to say, it's like 10 times bigger than what he would have been.
Yes.
They must have had him strapped to the boat.
to be a fly on that wall.
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
Right?
This is an amazing fish.
It
Beautifully
really
done,
is.
too.
Yeah. So then you can see we have more. We've got Wahine Huai and the sunfish. We also have Hannah Fraser, who is one of the first professional mermaids. She's one of the most famous professional mermaids currently working today. And we do have a video of her mermaiding and swimming in the entry hall. So that way, even if we don't have a professional mermaid, kids can still see what an actual mermaid kind of swims and does.
Now, you say when you don't have a professional mermaid,
so
you do have a professional?
Occasionally. So we, during the Mermaid Festival, will get in it was the beginning of April because we try to line up with spring breaks, and that's pretty close to International Mermaid Day, which is the 29th of March. But we have, during the festival, a mermaid who brings a traveling tank and sets up at the end of the building, a mermaid on our throne, other mer people wandering around, lounging about in different places. Yeah.
Wow.
The professional mer community is really cool. It's a lot of ocean activists and performers. So Hannah Fraser, in particular, is an ocean activist who enjoys swimming. She's a model. And her big goal was, how do I use these skills to share my love of the ocean? So she swims with tiger sharks. She swims with whale sharks, just to kind of show that they're really not that scary. She swims through coral reefs. People call her and say, would you like to swim as a mermaid in this abandoned city? And she goes, absolutely, yes. And so then they kind of put that out, and people are like, oh, we can dive there. And that's kind of her thing.
And this video that she's showing, it's on the wall. It's probably 6 foot by 8 or 10 foot screen. It's a big screen, and it's got beautiful photography or videography, I guess you'd say, of her swimming along shipwrecks, swimming through like Greece cities and all kinds of different places. The thing I'd like to know is, does she have an air supply hidden someplace, or does she do all this free diving?
So Mermaid Hannah can free dive, I want to say 90 feet on a breath. It's 90 or 50.
No.
One of those two. I know those are it's a big discrepancy, I realize, but it's a significant, it's at least 50 feet. And she can hold her breath for 4 minutes.
Really?
So I'm assuming that the person behind the camera has...
She's swimming with a whale.
Yeah, right?
Wow.
And this is a job. Professional mermaids get to swim with different ocean creatures dressed up as mermaids.
Dang.
Mm-hmm.
She's swimming with a tiger shark.
Yeah, professional mermaids.
This is just unbelievable. I could stand and watch this video all day.
Yep. We have a lot of people that do. Yeah, professional mermaids typically can hold their breath between 2 and 4 minutes.
Wow.
So.
That's unbelievable.
Yes. And then we also have our giant paper mache mermaid, Porcelina, of the vast oceans. And Porcelina was actually donated by the artist. If you guys look up Porcelina online, you'll see her. She'll pop up, by Jasmine Beckett Griffin. And she was donated to the museum by the artist. She needed to find a new home for her. And she heard about us and said, would you like her? And we said, yes, please.
And this is a mermaid with the typical fish tail, kind of bluish colored hair, and she's laying on kind of a wave platform. Probably, well, it's at least full human size, a little bit bigger than full human size, yes.
And her tail is that blue willow pattern.
And the artwork on the tail is really nice. This is cool. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so now we're headed into the actual museum.
Oh, wow. You step in here, you see mermaids all over the place. Seal, furniture, nets, anchors.
Sandy beach.
Yeah, sparkly sandy beach and the concrete finish. Wow, this is cool. Okay.
So I do want to highlight just a few of my favorite things,
if
that's okay. So the first thing I want to mention is this anchor. I love this anchor. Somebody Stan Curlio was working on a fishing ship, and they pulled their net in and scooped up this anchor, and because it was on his side of the boat, he got to keep it. And he marked down on his map where he found the anchor, and it lived on his porch. He took a picture of it, sent it to a museum in California, and said, hey, what can you tell me? And they said, that's 200 years old. Can we have it? And he's like, nah. So we put an anti-rust on the top, which is why it has that.
Right.
I know podcast listeners can't see, but the top has a bit more of a bumpy finish as opposed to the bottom where you can see the rust kind of shining through. So it's an anti-rust on the top. And then, so this gentleman had that on his porch for a while, a couple decades, came to the museum and said, this belongs here.
Wow.
Well, we had it on the floor. We didn't like it there. So our museum founder had the brilliant idea to build the shipwreck, which also fits with the whole underwater, like you're swimming with the mermaids at the bottom of the ocean vibe. And so that was a good way to display the anchor. Now, as museum curator and director, I'm very nosy about history. And I did not like having an anchor that I didn't know anything about in the collection.
Okay.
So I looked up and figured out the type of anchor it was based on the time period and the shape. It's similar to anchors used by Blackbeard on the Queen Anne's Revenge. And so I am sure enough that I would write an academic paper on this, that it is from the Nikolai, which is a ship that was stationed up in Russia in the 1800s, like early 1800s, like 1808. They were sailing down from Sitka to establish a colony. They were trying to get to Astoria. Hold on. I'm gonna mute my TV. Okay.
There's a lot of noise in here because of music in different areas.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
We got our mermaid fortune teller at the front.
Yes.
And that's all part of the ambience of this museum,
That's true.
which is really nice. Go ahead and keep it off till after we get through with the podcast.
Perfect.
But I love that it's here.
I mute it when I'm doing education programs as well, because it's just sometimes there's a lot, which is awesome and part of the experience. But
Right.
when I'm talking, I want the children to focus. So.
Right?
No offense. So this ship was coming down from Alaska. The boat wrecked. Everybody got off the boat. The boat just sank. And the anchor was picked up at about the same place that the ship went down, accounting for 200 years of drift.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool. The story, however, gets even more interesting because they decide they're going to walk from the peninsula down to Astoria.
Oh, that's a long walk.
Which is a long walk, and they were not good at it, so they got lost. And they had several skirmishes with the local peoples, and the captain's wife was captured. So the locals were like, okay, stop shooting at us, and you can have her back. And the Russians were like, nah, we're good. So the captain is really sad because he misses his wife. And so finally the rest of the crew is like, okay, fine, we'll stop shooting at the locals if we can have her back. And the locals say, all right, let's ask her what she wants to do. Now, in one story, in some stories, she says, nah, I'm going to stay here with these nice people in indentured servitude. And in the politest 18th century words, the gist is, I'd rather stay here in indentured servitude than wander around the woods with you idiots. Is the gist. Or she, and in some stories, the crew kind of leaves in shame and they eventually decide to surrender and are eventually ransomed by an American ship later. My favorite version of the story is that the rest of the crew looks at her, sees the fact that she's not starving to death, and goes, hang on, she might be onto something here. So surrender themselves and just live in captivity for a while, which is very different at that time period for...
Right.
And then they were ransomed later and brought back up to Alaska. So, yeah, I think that's kind of delightful. The sad part of that story is there were somewhere between 4 and 6 Alaskan natives on the ship. Some of them were women, we think. The records are a little spotty, and they never did make it back to Alaska. So that's sad. But
did they go back and find the ship from his documentation of where this anchor was?
They didn't. It's been so long that shipwrecks in this area tend to get pretty beaten up.
Right.
So anything left has probably already been washed up and recycled, unfortunately. Okay. It's on my list.
To go find it.
To go find it, absolutely.
Well, yeah.
Absolutely.
I love lists like that.
Yeah, So that's the map chart that has the mark on it. It's a really cool map table. Again, podcast people, you can't see it. You'll just have to come and visit us.
And that's the reason we don't do video podcasts, because I want them to come visit.
So this corner here has a clip from Pirates of the Caribbean playing. It's the movie that has the mermaid attack. There's some black coral, which is really cool. It's the state gem of Hawaii. And it's a beautiful black coral tree. Just kind of.
It is. It's what, probably 8 or 10 foot tall.
Yeah.
It's a very nice piece of coral.
Beautiful piece of coral. And then we have our coral collection because we want you to feel like you're underwater. So we've got a lot of coral there. My other favorite artifact right now, this week, is the carousel piece.
Okay, that was on a carousel.
So it looks like a ship figurehead. It's a little faded. It's wooden. You can see that it used to be gold and cream and light blue with very pale skin. And that's one of 8 carousel pieces, we believe. And that was brought by Napoleon Bonaparte to Egypt when he invaded.
Oh, really?
And so he brought it so he could show the Egyptians what real culture was all about.
How did that go for him?
Did not go well. I imagine the Egyptians looked at his carousel and looked at their pyramids and were like, thanks, man. Especially because he tried to bring as much Egyptian stuff as possible back.
Yes.
So this carousel piece went from France to Egypt, back to France, ended up in Texas.
Really?
Where our museum founder saw it. It's the only piece that the museum has actually purchased. And of the 8 pieces, 2 of them are in Western Washington.
Really?
Which is really funny. Yeah, one of them belongs to a private collector. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a piece.
It is a beautiful piece.
I mean, history-wise and everything else, the tales the mermaid could tell.
Oh, yeah. That's another one on my list of...
I guess you could say she went around and around and around the world.
Around. Yep. And she's in really good shape for being that old and being on the water for that long, too. So.
And again, you've got several different corals and a mermaid mannequin here, along with your video that's showing.
Yeah. And every display has some information about an ocean ecology fact, as well as a mermaid from around the world. So.
Right. And just to give an idea, this one says mermaid mythology, and we're going to go with
Savannah Macha.
Okay. Which translates to Golden Mermaid in a Hindu story. Thai versions of the Ramana. As a mermaid princess, she tries to spoil Hannah. Do you know how to read all these words?
Hanuman's plans to build a bridge to Lanka, but falls in love with him instead. So he stays underwater until he's called back to complete the bridge. So basically, this prince has to build a bridge. It's over mermaid territory. She's like, hey, don't build a bridge there. And they fall in love by mistake. And he stays with her for a while. They live quite happily under the sea. Then he realizes he has to go back and tell his parents, I'm not dead. We're not going to build the bridge here. And then he can't actually get back down to the water.
Okay. And so the ocean ecology is the crown of thorns, is one of the world's largest starfish. It preys upon and destroys coral reefs. While most common in Australia, it lives worldwide in warm waters from Red Sea to Hawaii to the Caribbean. It is named for its venomous spines that are said to resemble the biblical crown of thorns. Starfish can reproduce by autonomy or self-amputation and regenerate the lost body part later, usually as a self-defense mechanism. Then it says, I have heard the mermaids singing, each to each. I do not think that they will sing to me. T.S. Eliot, the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock. So these plaques are all over here in the museum. As you walk through, you can see the mermaid mythology from all these different countries, like she was talking earlier, along with this ocean ecology that correlates with it.
Yeah.
What a way to teach.
Yes, so it's my favorite kind of sneaky teaching. Because you might come in to learn about, because you're a big fan of mermaids, and then you learn about ocean ecology. Or you're really into ocean ecology, and you leave learning about world cultures.
Yes, exactly. And again, we've got another display with some large crabs, some starfish, some carved turtles. That looks like a real turtle.
He's carved, but
he
does look real, yeah.
He does look real.
Looks real.
Along with a couple more mermaid mannequins and some of that kind of stuff in this display.
Yeah. And so then this display here is a professional mermaid tale.
Okay.
It's Mermaid Una's one of her early tales. And we just have it on display so people can gently touch it and kind of feel what a mermaid tail feels like. Mermaid tails worn by professional mermaids are silicone. They're about 45 pounds in the water.
They're silicone all the way up to the waist.
All the way up to the waist.
45 pounds in the water. And does silicone float or does it sink? Just kind of stays neutral.
It's kind of neutral. That's what the professional mermaids I've asked tell me. They tell me it's not that heavy in the water, to which I always say, you are professional athletes.
Oh, no doubt.
One of the mermaids that we'll get to her display over in a bit, but she was trained by Michael Phelps. And so I'm like, everything you say about athleticism, I'm going to take with a heaping tray of salt.
Right.
So,
wow.
yeah. So Una the mermaid is the mermaid who brings her tank out here during the festival. And so this is just kind of also a display to honor her and let people know, too, about some of the mermaids here in our own neck of the woods.
That's just unbelievable, because you'd think that swimming with that extra weight would weigh you down to where not just being an athlete, but a super athlete, like you were saying.
Yep, it's really impressive. So.
Okay,
yeah.
And this display, we've got a Neptune's trident on the end of a shovel, which I find rather interesting.
Yes, this is the shovel that was used in the groundbreaking of the museum.
Okay.
Which is why it has the
And the Neptune on top, it looks like it was hand forged.
Yes.
And the total shovel length would probably be about 7 feet. So it's a big shovel and a Neptune. And you have a mannequin. Is this a merman or what is it?
It's supposed to be Aquaman. It is Aquaman.
Aquaman.
It's Aquaman.
It's Aquaman.
Yeah.
Okay.
We get a lot of little boys.
Right.
There's a lot of merladies. And so we wanted to have somebody that the little boys could be like, oh,
right.
Here's my person. Some little boys wanted a boy. So we thought, why not have Aquaman? He fits.
Yeah, he does.
He's great.
And again, you have some of your mythologies with Triton and who's this guy? Kiss?
Oh, this is just a fisherman here.
Yes.
So Kiask is a Scottish mer woman that is half woman, half salmon.
Oh, okay.
And this is just a fisherman, A big thing in the museum is we want to make sure to highlight different industries that are local, and it's a big fishing community. So,
okay.
Our nets,
and he's holding an interesting fork. It says it was used to chip ice in the hold of the boat.
Yep. The
I have
devil's
never
fork.
seen one of those.
They're pretty fun.
So they must have taken ice on board to keep the fish cold while they were out at sea. Wow. Okay.
And depending on how far north you go, you gotta chip that away. So.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
And our next one here, we've got a movie poster of Splash. I think I saw that show. I don't remember. I'm not a big movie watcher. But go ahead.
So Splash is playing in this corner here, and this one's really fun because for a lot of people, this is their first. Little Mermaid and Splash are the two big mermaid things that people remember.
Okay.
So we wanted to represent both of those. This mermaid here, which again, podcast people, come and see us.
She's sitting in a chair, in a kind of a queenly type pose or something.
Yes. And her tail is a tail dress, and it's white, and it's made out of milk jugs and plastic bags. And her hair is also made out of plastic bags, so it's very white and flowy. And she is Mermaid Eternity of the Pacific Garbage Patch.
Oh.
So this mermaid is what would a mermaid look like if they had to adapt to living on the garbage patch.
Okay. And the garbage patch, go ahead and explain that.
The garbage patch is I know it's at least one Texas.
Yeah, I was going to say
in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
I heard it got up to 2 Texases, but I need to fact check that.
How disgusting is that?
It's at least 1 Texas of trash in the ocean. Isn't that gross?
It is.
So.
And the problem is they dumped it all in there. Now they've got to figure out how to get it all back out.
Exactly. That's the yep.
And build another Texas.
Just build a Texas, put the trash on the Texas. So this mermaid is kind of her purpose, I think, and this is how I interpret her, is to show just the impact that we have on the environment. And when I do group education tours with kids, that's kind of the spin that we take it on. Like, mermaids have evolved so they can live in trash. What about all those creatures who can't? What does that look like for us? How do we fix that? Or how do we make sure no other mermaid's having to,
Well, she's pretty good looking for being
It's true.
being made of
it's
trash.
Very true. Yeah. She's very pretty. Yeah.
So-
This section also, we have some fun information about tsunamis.
Oh.
Fun in quote unquote, which is just also an important thing. Most kids from this area know about tsunamis because they all know that you're supposed to go inland. So that's always kind of fun.
Well, what a way to teach them too.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Okay, and you got a pirate over here sitting on a bench.
Yep, our pirate on the bench holding onto the wheel. All right, now we're headed into the shipwreck.
Oh.
So this is the interior of the shipwreck. In the very center, we have a wheel. You can climb up on the platform here and spin it, which is really fun.
I'll bet it is. The kids probably really enjoy that.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of hands-on stuff here.
Yes, that was important too, because we want it to be for all ages. Because even though there's a lot of mermaid stories are pretty dark.
Okay.
So we wanted to do our best to make sure it was still opened for kids.
Okay, and just in general, why are mermaid stories dark?
Mermaid stories are dark typically because they involve mermaids eating people.
Oh. Mermaids are cannibalistic? No, they're not cannibalistic.
They're different. They're a different species.
Exactly.
Yeah, mermaids tend to eat people, but mermaids are also they tend to be around. Like if someone pollutes too much or messes with the ocean, mer people will come out of the water and kill them. Also, mermaids tend to be spirits of or reimagined wronged women.
Okay.
So there's a mermaid named Yara who was murdered by her brothers for being a better fighter than them. And so the moon goddess brought her back as a mermaid. She's a mermaid from the Amazon. And she came back and murdered all of her brothers and all of their friends because they killed her first.
Wow.
Which...
Now this is interesting to me because I always envisioned the mermaids as kind of a romantic sea siren that would call the ships in and then steal the men, but I didn't realize how far the stealing went.
Yeah,
I thought it was more of a romantic story instead of a graphically murder story.
Some of them are. It's about 50-50.
Okay.
Because people also, a lot of mermaids have some sort of, like if you capture one, you can live forever, you can get a certain number of wishes, so people try to catch them to steal their magic.
Okay.
There's also a lot of stories of mermaids just minding their own business, sitting on rocks, and someone tries to catch them. So.
Huh.
Which.
Interesting. Yeah, I just had never thought of the other side of mermaidism. I just thought, hey, they're cute and they steal men and take them down undersea, and they all live happily ever after.
Some of them do. Some of them have nice little bone gardens.
Isn't that interesting? Bone gardens.
But yeah, so...
Now we know where bone meal comes from.
Exactly. So to kind of counteract that, like I said, we have a lot of stuff that's hands-on. Most everything we welcome people to touch and kind of see what it feels like.
Right.
How does it move? That kind of thing. So,
and in this display, you've got some cannonballs and you have some net floats. And
yes. These are 5-pound lead weights. Lead balls.
They're lead weights.
Well, they're lead shot, basically.
Cannonballs?
Cannonballs, yeah. They're little 5-pound guys.
Is that a sextant that's in there also?
It is a sextant that's in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And a porthole.
Oh, yeah.
Window and just a whole lot of things that
some
are here
pins.
to look at close.
Yeah. We have a binnacle, like a pretty tall one, which is basically the compass storage space.
Boy, I'm glad you said that because I didn't know what a binnacle was. I was going to have to ask.
I'm drastically oversimplifying this, but basically it has a space in the middle and the compass can bounce inside because ships tend to bounce. So that way the compass itself is also moving and a bit more free to move in a way that a traditional compass that's still mounted won't.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so you can pretend like you're the captain of a ship right in here, other than it's underwater now.
Exactly. Well, you still have the mermaids around you, so you kind of feel like you're still traveling. So.
Okay. And a whole collection of sand dollars and a nautilus shell.
Yes.
And a puffer fish.
I love the puffer fish.
And a mermaid in a bathtub.
Yes.
She must feel a little bit out of place.
Well, she's inspired in the shipwreck, yeah. But no, she's inspired by the story of, every time I mispronounce her, but
Do you want me to try it so that I can do
yes,
a really
please.
bad
That'd
job?
Be great.
Melusine? See? How bad did I butcher
that's
it?
about right, actually. Every time I want to put the S earlier than it is.
Oh.
So it's a Scottish story about this king who has a beautiful wife, and his wife is like, hey, don't ever watch me in the bathtub. And he's like, okay. And then one day, he does, in fact, see her in the bathtub and finds out that she's actually a mermaid. So...
And he didn't know that before?
And he didn't know that before. She only was a mermaid in the water.
Oh, okay.
And so that was why no one could bug her in the bathtub. She's like, don't come in here. And the same thing happened to her daughter.
Oh, yeah?
And so in the end, she actually turns into a bird of some kind and flies away.
Okay.
And so when I tell this story to kids on education tours, the moral of the story is don't bother people in the bathtub.
Good story.
It's a good story. I think that's an important lesson for everyone.
And the ocean ecology on this one's kind of interesting too. It talks about the puffer fish are poisonous with enough tetrodotoxin. What is that word again?
Tetrodotoxin.
Okay, in its organs to kill 30 adults. The poison is 1,200 times more deadly than cyanide. There is no known antidote or substance to counteract the poison. Puffing up is the fish's primary defense since their normal slim body becomes too big to bite. It takes the fish over 5 hours to deflate. I had no idea all that about a puffer fish.
Right?
I just thought they were kind of cool.
They are really cool.
Yeah,
So.
it doesn't look like much fun to play with though.
No, absolutely not. But yeah, that's just the cool things.
Yeah, underwater volleyball would not be much fun with that
Oh,
guy.
absolutely not. Oh. So this is another contemporary mermaid, Rachel the Sailing Siren, who's a certified free diver and mermaid instructor who's from Las Vegas. She was in American Ninja Warriors. She was also in Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever. She's a fire performer, and she's usually here at the Mermaid Festival doing fire performances.
In April. Wow. And so they've got a mermaid school that she's the instructor at.
She has a freediving company. The Seattle Mermaid School is run by Olive the Alchemist, and she's over.
And so there is a school that if
There
you
is a
decided you
school.
wanted to be a mermaid,
Yes.
you could go.
There's a couple of different places. So Rachel focuses more on freediving, which is an important skill
I would
for
imagine.
mermaiding, yes.
Yeah, because mermaiding with a scuba tank probably would not be
It
quite
kinda
as
wrecks the
impressive.
image,
Yeah,
yeah.
a little bit.
So, yeah. But Olive the Alchemist is our other mermaid who is here regularly. This is the story of Yara. But Olive the Alchemist is a certified mermaid instructor and has founded the Seattle Mermaid School. They were also a performer at Disney World. And so the mermaids that come out of the Seattle Mermaid School are both PADI certified. PADI certified.
Patty
which
is a scuba diving.
is a scuba diving. Mhm.
Right.
So they're diving certified as well as having experience in performance.
Okay.
So that way they have kind of the best of both worlds, because some mermaids get to swim all the time. Other mer people are on thrones or go to parties and do entertaining and like talk to kids.
Right.
When they're here, Olive does that a lot. Sits on the throne, interacts with the kids, and you have to have a specific kind of, what's the word? Performance skill level.
Okay.
Or a skill set to be able to do that. Because some kids are afraid of mermaids, so you have to be able to show them that you're not scary,
Okay.
if that makes sense, and be warm
Yeah.
and inviting at the same time.
Probably kind of a lot like a Santa Claus. How many pictures do you see
Exactly.
of kids crying?
Exactly.
Right.
So that's Olive. And Olive's most famous tale is patterned after the tiger shark.
Okay.
We don't have a picture of it here, but it's a really cool one. So.
And something else that's just kind of interesting that I'll throw out there is there's a big difference between free diving and scuba diving. With free diving, you could go down to 90 feet, like what you show at the front. I can't remember what her name was.
Hannah Fraser.
Hannah Fraser. She can free dive and probably go down 60, maybe 50 feet. Well, 90 feet, you said.
50
on a
or
free
90,
dive.
one of those
But
two.
if she had a scuba tank on and went down and took a breath of air at 90 feet and swam up, her lungs would explode because of the expansion of the gases in her lungs. So the free dive, she can go from surface to 90 feet and back up without any issues. But if she was using scuba, she would have to be very careful of her elevations in order to not have her lungs explode. So I can see why the PADI certification would be important.
So, yeah, and all the mermaids that come out of the Seattle Mermaid School, I just found this out at the festival, are insured. So, like, they come with their own insurance if they're at your party, which is cool.
Yeah.
And they also have an open swim. You can rent a tail and swim with the mer people.
Oh, really?
And if you go to this school, you can they have lessons, they call it from guppy to experienced.
Right.
And they'll teach people how to wear tails safely. Because mermaid tails, they're dangerous if you don't know what you're doing.
I would imagine.
Yeah, right?
Just the body movement that you've
it's
got
like
in order
doing
to
the
make
underwater worm for an extended period of time.
And how long do you do that before you start getting cramps?
Oh,
or just flat out wear out, and then you've got 45
Exactly.
pounds to just
kind
drag
of
you
weigh
down.
Exactly.
Because swimming, again, as a mermaid with a life vest on probably doesn't
It
fit
doesn't
the
have
image
the same
right.
look, yeah. It's,
No. Inflatable bras or something.
Is there a market for that?
sorry.
No, you're good.
Maybe I should invent that. There might be a market
Maybe
for that.
there is.
Mermaid
We'll have
safety
to-
items. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. So,
It just happens.
so this section here, we actually break down a little bit. You're good. This section here has a bit of world history and then local history because we have some artifacts that were donated by Roland Omar Yeomans, who enlisted. He's from Hoquiam, which is fairly close to here. He enlisted in the Navy during World War II after the attack on Pearl Harbor, and he actually was a salvage diver in Pearl Harbor, and we have his diving helmet.
Which is
and
one of
some
the
of his-
old school glass, just a glass front and has air pumped into it from the top. It's a big, heavy helmet.
It looks like a Scooby-Doo villain would wear it.
Right.
Yep.
Then
But yes.
you've got an old set of tanks, the dual tanks that are small.
Yeah. We have a picture of him there and a picture of the ship he sailed on when he went out on the battleship USS New Mexico. And just some other fun artifacts kind of related to him that came from his family.
Wow.
Because it was also important to make sure to sprinkle some local history in as well.
Right.
And some
And then
fun,
you've got a scuba lady up on top.
Absolutely. Information about scuba, and then the Diving Association, the Northwest Diving History Association donated some tanks and different flippers,
Regulators.
some fun stuff like that, so you can see what that would look like.
Oh, wow.
throughout
You've got
the
some
years.
giant clamshells
Yes.
with another mermaid standing in them. With
Yes, so that's
pearls and
Aphrodite,
clamshells. Oh, Aphrodite. Okay.
who we said is not technically a mermaid, but she is the Greek goddess of seafaring, is one of Aphrodite's things, so
Okay.
she seemed appropriate. And also she was born from sea foam and appeared in a scallop shell, so it's appropriate.
Right. Definitely.
So,
And here you have scallops as your highlighted ocean ecology.
yeah.
And it says, when mermaids sleep in oceans deep inside their coral caves, they lay their heads on seaweed beds, rocked softly by the waves. And that was written by Mr. Anonymous.
Yep,
I've
Mr.
heard that
Anonymous.
he's done a lot of different
He's done a lot of
things.
really good things, yeah. All right,
Wow.
so,
A case full of pearls.
and a display from Brady's Oysters, which is a local oyster farm.
I think we saw
So,
that on our way up.
Yeah, so they sent in some information for us to put out. So we had some information on a local industry.
This is just so cool. I had no idea. I had no idea that mermaids were like this.
Oh yeah, this mermaid here was made by a bunch of blind artists,
Oh, really?
and it was what would a mermaid look and feel like if you can't see.
Isn't that interesting?
Which
And we're
is-
supposed to touch?
Yes, that one you were supposed to touch.
Wow. That's interesting. They did a really good job.
Yeah,
It looks
they did.
just like all the other mermaids in here.
She's beautiful. She's beautiful.
And who did they use for the model?
I don't know.
Oh,
I was not told that. We also have the Fiji mermaid, made famous by
oh,
Mr. P.T. Barnum.
okay.
I love this story. So I don't know if you've seen The Greatest Showman,
Right.
but P.T. Barnum was not that nice. He was no Hugh Jackman. So they had this flyer of a beautiful mermaid, and they told everyone, come and see our beautiful mermaid. And when people got in there, they found a monkey sewn to a fishtail. And people were not amused that they paid all this money, but nobody wanted to tell their friends that they'd paid all this money to see a monkey sewn to a fish. So people just told their friends it was a beautiful mermaid, and they ended up making a ton of money because everyone was too embarrassed to admit that they'd paid to see this. So I
would be embarrassed to tell my friends to go see it just on the account that they'd come
You
back
would.
and tell me that I was a fool.
You would think, but apparently everyone was like, yeah, it's beautiful. We loved her. So.
And so you've got a skeletal mermaid in a case
Yes.
on top of a bunch of razor clams.
Yep.
And she's not so beautiful.
She's patterned after the Fiji mermaid, yeah.
And it's not very big. It's only, what, probably 12 inches long,
Yeah,
10
it's
inches
pretty
long?
small.
Yeah. But still, it's there.
Exactly. All right, and then of course, we have the Ariel corner. We cannot be the International Mermaid Museum with no information on the most famous mermaid.
How can it be an aerial corner when it's undersea? Aerial and undersea are two conflicting. Never mind. I'll give all the Disney watchers something to think about.
Yeah. Huh. So we have our Ariel mannequin. We have a little makeup desk that was donated by a little girl. They were moving, and it was for her 11th birthday. She wanted to donate her Ariel Ariel makeup desk to the International Mermaid Museum. And so they came down. She filled out all the paperwork and dropped it off. So we have it here.
How
which
awesome
is
is
wonderful.
that?
It was really fun. It was great.
I bet the little girls just absolutely love this.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes we have people that just come in and they're just like, they just want to stay in this corner, look at the makeup set, watch Ariel sing. Like, there's a puzzle over there on top of the seal. The seal's also really cool. He's a taxidermied seal that was donated. And he goes with the Selkie information.
Okay.
So, are you familiar with Selkies?
I'm not familiar with
Selkies. Okay, so Selkies are Scandinavian, Irish, Scottish seal women.
Oh.
And they come out of the water every so often, take off their seal skins, and basically have a dance party on the beach. But if someone takes their seal skin, the Selkie has to go live with them.
Okay.
So unscrupulous people would hang out around Selkie dance parties and try to steal their skin. And then, of course, their Selkie bride would spend most of the remainder of her life on land trying to steal her skin back so she could go back to the ocean.
Interesting.
So, that's cheerful.
Makes you wonder how many lives were lost sitting on a beach waiting for a Selkie party.
Oh, man. I don't even want to know. They're not here yet. Or just like, oh, nope, those are just seals.
There you go.
But yeah, so and there's also a lot of stories and families in Scotland and Ireland who trace their lineage back to various, either Kiask, which is another Scottish mermaid, the salmon one, or the Selkies, who claim they have some of that in their bloodline.
That's interesting.
Which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Most of the mermaid stories that we know about do come from Scotland and Ireland.
Really?
Because the Scottish and Irish approach to magical things seems to be, let me give you a list and tell you how to avoid it so it doesn't kill you.
Right.
As opposed to other cultures which are like, we're not going to talk about this magic thing that could kill you. The Scottish are like, here's our list. Avoid this place, avoid this place, avoid this place, watch out for mushroom rings, all that. And the Irish too. So.
Well, yeah, with their leprechauns and, and all the other fairies. And that's interesting.
So, yeah. So that's this corner here. And then the last thing we have is information about jellyfish, which are now called sea jellies.
Oh, they changed their name?
They changed their name to sea jellies.
Okay.
A group of sea jellies is called a smack.
Really?
Which I think is really fun. And the mermaid here is Thessalonica, a Greek princess who was the sister of Alexander the Great.
Oh.
So he died, and she tried to drown herself, but became a mermaid.
Okay.
Now, when children ask this story about the mermaid at the front by the sea jellies, I tell them that she died and turned into a mermaid, because you don't want to plant that thought in someone's head, you know?
Right.
So she would always ask how her brother was doing. Is he alive? And if they said the right thing, he lives and reigns and conquers the world, she'll let him go. If they said anything else, like he's dead, thank goodness, she would sink their ship.
Oh.
Kind of a classic case of I can mess with my siblings, but
Don't
nobody
you?
else. Don't you? Excuse you. Exactly.
Right.
So yeah, the other artifact that's pretty cool is back out in the entry hall.
Okay.
We have an alligator and a tail from the movie Ursula, and we were the last stop on their press tour.
Okay.
So we have the tail that was used in the movie. It's patterned after an alligator skin. And we have some information on how they designed the tail and a signed movie poster. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's all really cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of the highlights of the museum, and basically some of my favorite things.
And you could spend all day long reading
absolutely.
these little plaques
Yes.
along the wall and getting
Absolutely.
the different ecology and mermaid. I didn't realize there were this many known mermaids or
This is
named
just
mermaids.
40 of the most family friendly.
Wow. So there's some that aren't family friendly
Yes.
at all.
Oh, yeah. And some of these are kind of dark, so the fact that these are the most family friendly is
Okay.
something to think about.
This is really a fun little museum.
It
I
is.
didn't know what to expect when we showed up here,
get
but
that a lot.
I really like
Yeah.
the oddball museums, and this one kind of fits the bill.
Yeah.
And you guys have done a very, very nice job of
Thank you.
presenting it and showing lots of different mermaids. Anybody that was interested in a mermaid, old or young, this is the place to be. And it's in Markham, Washington. You guys have a website.
Yes. I believe it's mermaidmuseum.org.
Okay. mermaidmuseum.org. And you guys are open every day.
Every day except for Thanksgiving and Christmas from 11 to 6.
From 11 to 6. And you're right next to the beach. I mean, the beach is not far to where you can enjoy the beach and the mermaids. This is just, it's fantastic. And I appreciate you taking your time with me today, Bailey.
Of course. Thank you so much for coming in.
I always finish out my podcast by saying the world is full of wonder. And you need to get out and explore. But don't go diving too deep in the ocean, because what you might find may not be quite as pleasant as you'd hoped. And everybody have an absolutely wonder-filled day. Make sure to check us out on Facebook. We usually post pictures of the museums that we go to. And we also, it's at Where Am I to Go podcast on Facebook. And then we also have a website at whereamitogo.com, and that has a breakdown state by state of where we've done podcasts and museums we've been to. Check those out, and again, have a wonder-filled day.
All the roll and go, where am I to go? Meet Johnny, where am I to go? For I'm a young and a sailor lad, and where am I to go?